Welcome to Perth Watch, your horology channel broadcasting from right here in Perth, Western Australia. Today I have the latest piece from CIGA Design. Now CIGA Design is a brand who has sent quite a few pieces to me, or at least I've obtained a number of pieces for review over time. The last model I reviewed, the Z series, I thought was pretty cool. Yes, it was a little bit of a Richard Mille homage or ripoff, but you know, I think they executed that very well. Today this watch comes in this particular package. Now this is a prototype plain package, it's not the finished package, so that's why it looks quite plain. But you know, without further ado, let's just flip it around and take a closer look at this watch. Alright guys, so here we have the package on the table. This is actually just a prototype package. The proper one will come with the usual kind of artistic decorations. I will try to put a picture over here for you guys to see if I can find what the final product is meant to look like. This one actually has some kind of packaging notice that I've ripped off here because it didn't look very good. How spinnable it is? Well, you know, you wouldn't really exactly go spinning this, but actually it's not too bad. I reckon 3.5. So let's just get this open now to show you guys how the fancy packaging is. And I do kind of like what they go for. It's kind of a bit of a Apple inspired, I suppose. You know, it's going to have a lot more decoration here, but as it is, you're just going to see that watch face here. And this is how it's going to look like. So there's a removal tool. You don't actually really need it for removing the spring bars because it's quick release, but you do need it to adjust the Milanese strap here. So there we go. That is the actual case there, and because it comes with this strap here, I'm gonna kind of try to put this on for you guys to see. This Milanese strap isn't the one it's meant to go on. At least it's not ostensibly marketed as the main strap by any means, but because they've actually provided this as an option, I will just aim to show it to you guys here, and it is pretty easy to do. Okay, so this is how it's going to look like. This is not adjusted to me, unfortunately, but this is how it kind of will look on the Milanese strap. And this one is just a very basic, you've seen this before, Chinese OEM style. Kind of hook it on, and then that kind of catches in there, and then you got that keeper for security. Okay, so you've seen this before, nothing too groundbreaking. In fact, you can probably order one yourself from eBay without too much cost, I would imagine. All right, and this is just going to be live. I'm not going to fast forward any of this, just to show you that it is actually quite easy to assemble this, even with my hands reaching behind the camera. Okay, so let's just put that in. That's there, and then the top strap. Let's put that in there. Get the keepers out of the way, and that's it, right? Very easy to assemble. Definitely you'll do it easier if you don't have a camera between you and the watch like I do right now. All right guys, so let's just show this to you in closer detail. And the lighting here is pretty good for this. I think it does bring out the detail in the movement. So this is of course the CIGA Design latest series called the J series automatic, and it is just on Kickstarter. I think last week. Hopefully there will be quite a lot more going, and it will get funded, no doubt, as they usually are quite successful. The Kickstarter price, early bird, 369 USD, and then I think there's a next step up, 399, and then the typical will be 429 USD for most of the Kickstarter backers, and that's 20% off the full MSRP of 529 USD. Typically you probably will never pay that. You always buy this, I think, on some form of discount. And of course this is a Zen themed watch, and when they talk about the design of this watch, they looked around for inspiration and they settled on Karesansui, which is the Japanese sand and rock garden style, and this is what has inspired this watch. All right, first up, let's talk about the movement. So the movement in this watch is the Miyota 8N24. They haven't actually ostensibly said that, but in my research, that's really what this should be. So stats down the left of screen, you've seen variants of this movement before. Of course, the 8215 being the most common, and this essentially has most of the same statistics. Manual winding, it's not a hacking movement, and in this case, of course, there is no date wheel. Rated accuracy, as you can see on the bottom left there. In actual use, this is actually running pretty sweet. It is actually hitting +4 seconds per day in the week that I had this running. So that's actually pretty darn good regulation, I have to say, on the part of this prototype from CIGA Design. Okay, let's talk about the case here. 44mm diameter is what this is. So pretty sizable 316L steel. Thickness is pretty modest at 11mm all up, and the lugs, no, I guess overt lugs, it's actually hidden under the case here, is 22mm, and there's no meaningful lug-to-lug distance. It is a perfectly round case, 44mm between my thumbs there, 44mm diameter all the way around. The overall weight of this watch is a fairly light 73 grams on the silicon rubber. On the Milanese stainless steel, it's going to be slightly heavier, but I didn't actually even bother weighing that because, really it's not meant to come on that. This is what it's marketed on, this silicon rubber. All right, finishing wise, circular brushing on the top surface of the bezel there and horizontal brushing on the side with CIGA Design on this side without the crown. The bottom is fairly nicely transitioned. Look at how sharp, I guess hopefully you'll appreciate how sharp that transition from the horizontal brush to the polish, full polish on the bottom here. Okay, including the case back there, the case back bit is polished. So it's got that screw down display case back showing that Miyota movement, and it's got a push crown here, right, with a C for CIGA Design, the perfectly round C. The water rating they've gone for is 30 meters for this watch, which is kind of ostensibly a casual, I guess, dress style, you might say. It's not really a dress watch, but certainly you will not be taking this swimming with that water rating. All right, guys, let's talk about the dial now. So the dial here is probably where most of the design effort has gone into. It's what I would like to call a satin white. It's got 120 line divisions to kind of give you the half-minute divisions here. It's got a graduated skeleton effect. So as it goes towards the middle, it gets more and more, I guess, transparent, and it becomes completely hollow in that middle section that you can see there. I mean, ostensibly, this is supposed to be 3 layers. They describe that as the middle being the essential core, the next layer being the inner world, and the kind of outer layer being the physical reality. Honestly, I find that probably a little bit of marketing speak. I don't know how much real Zen or Buddhist philosophy there is. It's probably just a bit of gibberish for the marketing and promotion of this particular watch. That's how it kind of comes across as, but let me know if you know better. It's got polished full span hands. So the minute hand is the one with the red tip on the one side, is where you're going to use to point to the minutes, and then the other hand is actually the seconds hand, which actually just turns around, of course, as you can see it moving here. The hour hand is actually very difficult to see. It's actually a red mark on a transparent disc floating above the hollow middle core, and really I honestly think this is actually quite difficult to see. I think the explanation they give for it is also slightly tacky. It talks about how the person is thinking about the inner being as well as being in the outer world at the same time. Try to put the quotes on screen here for you guys to read. All right, so that's the description of the dial, and then on top of that, what we have is a K9 mineral glass. That's really what it is, a hardened mineral glass, not sapphire, on this particular watch. Okay, moving on to the strap then. This one actually is not bad. I gotta say I quite like this grey silicon rubber, which is Karesansui inspired, Japanese rock garden inspired, the sand patterns that you might see. It's got a brushed steel buckle with the brand name there, and it's got quick release bars, which I've shown you earlier, and then you saw the bonus Milanese bracelet or strap that it comes in right in the package. Okay, so that's really the description of the watch. Let's just snap it on the wrist for you guys to see a wrist shot now. And so there we go, guys, the CIGA Design J Series automatic on my 17 centimeter wrist. So it sits pretty nicely in terms of being only 11 millimeters high, but very sizable of 44 millimeters, yet doesn't hang over because it is a perfectly round watch, perfectly round case. So that it's kind of a plus for it, that it doesn't hang over, and even if you have a relatively small wrist like mine, it carries, reasonably well despite being 44 millimeter in terms of diameter. All right, so that's the entire description. What are the good things? What I feel are the good things here. I think it really is another interesting piece from CIGA Design. They've come up with some really good stuff, and this one is equally fascinating, right? It's a very interesting premise. Certainly, it is an absolute conversation starter. I've had no shortage of people looking at this on the wrist and going, what in the world is that? It really does attract attention because it's so unusual. It's relatively well put together. Look, I would say the finishing's pretty good, especially the transition is pretty well done from the brush to the polish there. The design elements, are not bad at all. The dial, how they've gone for that pattern there. The pattern on the strap, I quite like that. It's kind of cool. It really does have a Zen feel. And that circular, lugless case design, I really appreciate that. It's a pretty cool case. And overall, it's a pretty fun packaging. This packaging as well, I got to say, it's pretty fun, right? It's pretty funky. You see that watch in the hole there. It's, fun case designs as they usually put out. But, it's also got a number of concerns. So I got to say, firstly, most obviously, it is not a watch that you will use to tell the time, at least not in any quick sense, because even now, as I look at it, very difficult to tell what time it is. I can hardly see the hour hand to tell the time. Yeah, the minute's easy enough to see, but you will need to look at this intently to discern the time. I guess if you're meditating, if you're in a Zen mood, you don't need to know the time, and maybe that's what they're going for. The hour disc, hopefully, I'm trying to catch the light here, right? There's actually an unevenness in the transparent disc, which tells me that it's a thin piece of plastic, and that unevenness is not cool. It kind of cheapens the watch actually, because it does feel that it's just a plastic disc that's very thin that makes that floating hour hand there. And then overall, Miyota 8 series, hardened mineral glass and not sapphire, I think these are actually a step down for the brand. They've done better than that. I think they had a custom Seagull AAA before, and I think that is actually a better movement to put in rather than this one. So unfortunately, I feel that this is actually a step down in overall value that they're offering here. And I got to say that Milanese bracelet that they put in, it feels like a bit of an afterthought. Really, this is what it's meant to come on. All right, guys, so that's my thoughts on this watch. Let's flip the camera around now for the wrap up. So there you go, guys, my review of the CIGA Design J series Zen inspired Karesansui themed watch. I think there are certain design elements in this watch which are, pretty good. But I think there are also certain things where it's weak and it kind of falls a bit backwards. In fact, I think there are a few steps it's taken backwards from where it was before. But let me know what you think about this particular piece, especially if you know anything in more detail about the concept of Karesansui or the Japanese rock and sand garden. Honestly, I think CIGA Design and the parent company Xiaomi have actually put out quite a few good pieces. I remember, and I'm including the Amazfit smart watches here. Some of their designs have been real winners. They really have hit some high notes, but unfortunately I think this one is possibly the weakest piece I've received from them. But as always, let me know what you think in the comments below. Guys, if you enjoy my videos, do consider subscribing. New content every week, always aiming to be objective and unbiased about all things horology. Thank you again for sticking with me, and as always, I'll catch you guys again next time.